Hello everyone, welcome back to a Megon 2 Electric Boogaloo. Today I'd like to talk about the British singer-songwriter Adele. Hugely popular, hugely successful, features in the news a lot, not least because of her weight loss journey, and because people love to talk about her relationships. But more recently, she featured in the news because she decided 6 months after she had cancelled some shows in Las Vegas to talk about what she felt, what she went through because she cancelled these shows. This was, for those who don't know, a residency in Las Vegas. She had cancelled it just days before her residency was due to begin on the 21st of January. Adele had put out this rather tearful video announcing the cancellation, claiming that she pulled out of her slot at the Coliseum in the Caesars Palace Casino because of continuous delays due to COVID. In that video, she simply said, "I'm sorry, but my show ain't ready." Also pointing out that half of her team, half of her crew had the couth, and that it had been impossible to finish the show and get the show to a standard that she would deem dub acceptable. Somewhat interestingly, over the years, Adele has cancelled a number of shows she did earlier in her career due to anxiety, which made sense because she became hugely successful off her very first album. In fact, all her albums have absolutely smashed it. But there are conflicting reports about the cancellation. Reports alleged that the other reason, the more likely one, was actually due to a series of disagreements amongst the team itself. That claim came courtesy of a source that had spoken to TMZ, further adding that the crew at Caesars was ready, willing and able, and they don't understand why Adele waited until the last minute to pull the plug. Based on some of the claims from people who had worked within the project itself, it seems more likely Adele was being a diva, which is quite common. Very successful female singer, similar to the blokes as well, can't help but be a massive tosser because they want everything very much a certain way. And if it is slightly off, or there's one M&M in the bowl that's not the right colour, all of a sudden the almighty triggering ensues, which leads to this. Now my view on this is much simpler. Yes, I can fully understand, appreciate and respect that Adele would want the show to be absolutely 100% pristine, but as stated, some of your crew were down, there were people waiting to help and they were not asked. They should have been used and the show should have gone ahead. People had paid thousands of dollars to travel from around the world to see you perform, and you decided to fob them off, which by the way, many did not get refunds for, or get a ticket for an alternate date, which by the way wouldn't mean much if you had to travel from the UK for example, because they'd still have to then pay for more travel, more hotels, just to come and see you perform again, when it's likely you'd cancel again. You are committed to perform those shows. You are obliged to perform those shows. Maybe a stripped back version with a disclaimer. "Sorry everyone, but I couldn't be asked to give you the full Monty, so instead you get a little bit of wobbling on a chair." Which, considering how devout many of your fans are, isn't exactly a cop-out for them. They weren't expecting fireworks, were they? You're not Rammstein after all. You're hardly known for running around the stage and smashing your knee in with your fist. You're hardly going to pick up a Gibson Flying V and start rocking off some solo akin to Eddie Van Halen. You're more likely to stand by a piano and occasionally change your outfit. So going out of your way to simply do what others had paid for you to do, and come and see you do, wouldn't exactly put them out. Yes, it wouldn't be perfect, and I get you want to protect your brand by maintaining a standard, but they paid for a service. You did not provide them that service. So skip ahead many months, and Adele finally responds to it because things have died off enough. So let's talk about what she says with regards to that. Courtesy of an article from the BBC, Adele had said that the brutal reaction to the postponement of her Las Vegas residency earlier in the year left her feeling like a shell of a person, which is why when you look at the news and notice she's in it almost every other day with her boyfriend, smiling, that shell of a person was clearly behind closed doors. But keeping up those appearances was very important. When she spoke to BBC Radio 4's Desert Island Discs, Adele said postponing left her devastated, but she also stood by her decision, telling her fans that she would also be rearranging very, very soon. The quote she gave to Lauren Laverne was, "I definitely felt everyone's disappointment, and I was devastated, and I was frightened about letting them down. I thought I could pull it together and make it work, and I couldn't. and I stand by that decision. Continuing, and yes, this is the part I found most interesting. I'm not going to just do a show because I have to, or because people are going to be let down, or because we're going to lose loads of money. I'm like, the show's not good enough. I mean, one can argue subjective about whether the show was going to be good enough to begin with. It was a residency after all, not a tour. I do believe most people agree they solely exist to make money and nothing else. That's not to say a tour doesn't, but at least with a tour you go to them. They don't then just come to you and spend vast amounts of money not able to get refunds. It's not like you offered the refunds for the travel. And you say, I'm not just going to do a show because I have to. You're right. Who needs contracts? Who needs to have some agreement signed on a piece of paper saying you'll be there where tickets are sold for people to go to see you? Why do that when you can just turn up whenever you can be bloody arsed? Oh, and don't worry about letting people down, because you already said that hurts you enough as it is. But you're not going to do a show because you'll let them down, while that will simultaneously make you feel like a shell of a person. Are you sensing the complete lack of thinking behind this response? It is remarkable that you would say something so stupid. You had to do the show, and you decided, nah, fuck you all, I'm not doing shit. In it, swag fam, because you're a chav. Screw that, you've been let down. Screw that it's cost you all lots of money, all the while also talking about how we're all going to lose loads of money. I'm sorry, but aren't you one of the richest musicians on the planet at this point? The only people that actually lost any money were those that weren't able to get refunds for the travel, the expenses of the hotels. The cost of traveling around the world to see a singer that didn't sing. Shortly after all those dates didn't happen, Adele had actually spoken to a TV host called Graham Norton and had said that she was working hard with her team to prepare and confirm new dates. Now, based on what we know of Adele's behaviour, when she says working hard, what she really means is, I'm going to give you all a buckload of orders, you're going to do it, and someone's going to get my coffee while I sit here at a basketball game with my boyfriend and pout, trying to pretend that I'm hurt on the inside because things aren't going to plan. Oh, and to give some scope about how much touring Adele does, shows in London Hyde Park not long ago were actually the first proper ticketed concerts that Adele had done in 5 years. She doesn't need to tour to make a shitload of money, because most of her money comes from her music and merch. So this residency doesn't really need to happen at all, because she's still filthy rich, but she had committed to doing it. And a small part of me had thought, maybe you were being a diva, but it's possible something that I earlier referenced had come back to bite you, and at the 11th hour you just couldn't go on. Some people aren't meant to be able to tour. I know that Patrick Stumper, Fall Out Boy, once said that the reason he takes his glasses off on stage is solely so he can't see the audience when he's singing. That way he doesn't suffer any anxiety issues. Yeah, just thought I'd put it out there. It was the very first thing that came into my head, and I can't imagine why. Maybe I'm just a hater.